Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar introducing Fast Track's new accessory offerings. Just a few quick notes before we get started. During the webinar, all attendees will be muted for best audio quality. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to type in your questions. These will be monitored. It is my pleasure to introduce today's presenters, Connor Duhame and Stanko Polaksic. Stanko is the Director of Product Engineering at Fast Track. After 15 years in aviation, he transitioned into the solar industry where he spent the last 3 years developing reliable racking solutions for real world installations. His work centers on the continuous improvement of solar racking systems, making them easier to install while ensuring they perform in Canadian conditions. Today, he works closely with installers to refine systems that help solar projects move faster and with greater confidence. Connor is an energy systems specialist at Fast Track. He holds a bachelor's degree in energy systems engineering and has been working in the solar industry for nearly 15 years. Most of his career has been working on project management, product design, and support for solar racking systems. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Connor to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Tatum. Welcome, everybody. Today we're here to talk about some Fast Track accessories, 2026 edition. So we've got a couple of exciting things we're going to showcase today. Please, as we go, if you have questions, type them on in. We'll try and I like to address them as we go a little bit, and then of course we'll open it up at the end. So on the agenda today, we've got kind of three exciting new options to the Fast Track lineup that we're going to introduce. First one is going to be our new cable clip solution. Number two is a spacer tool. And then number three, which I think is the crown jewel of the lot, is our new Fast Track Edge, which is a critter guard system. So I'll dive right into it. So this is our new Fast Track cable clip. So simple tool-free cable management designed specifically for Fast Track rails. So as you can see front and center here, this is the new cable clip. It's really quite simple. It's a small metal clip made out of stainless steel. It's black coated, so it kind of hides in nicely. It's designed to fit directly into all of our Fast Track UL, RM, and HD rails. Generally, you're going to pop that into the side channel of the rail. But that said, on our Fast Track rails, all the channels, top, bottom, side, they're all the same. So you can snap it in anywhere you please. There are no tools required for installation. It just snaps into place. You can see those two kind of wings on either side. They're going to clip into the rail channel. And then you're going to notice there's little teeth on kind of the top and the bottom on the ends. And those are designed to bite onto the inside of the rail channel, and they'll prevent it from sliding around, keep it secure and in place. So really this allows you to secure your cables along the lengths of the rails nice and easily. A lot of installers these days, like I think the most common solution really is to zip tie all the way around the rail. So what this allows you to do is zip tie right to the side of the rail. So I'll show you some images coming up, but it's a little bit more elegant, a little bit more secure, and super simple and easy to use. They're designed to be used with standard cable ties. So we don't supply these with it. You can bring your own. You can use whatever size you want, up to a 7 mm width. Length may depend on what kind of cables you're installing. So you can use obviously RPVU, your PV module cables. That's what it's kind of optimized for. But if you have, inverter trunk cable or other things going on up there, it's really agnostic. You can zip tie anything to it. There is a max weight. We list a 5 pounds per clip, so you can kind of do the math on that, but it's kind of based on the size of the bundle. So it's quite a bit. You can put quite a bit of cable in there, and then you can space them as frequently as you need to. So here's an image of it in action in our Fast Track Ultra Rail. So as you can see, it just pops in right in the side of the rail. You can go anywhere you want. There are two holes in it designed for the zip tie to clip through. So you can use a single zip tie. You can use two if you want. Maybe you've done one and you're going to add some more cables. You can zip through that second cable. So it's just meant to make it easy, simple to use. One of the benefits to this is if you're zip tying right around the whole perimeter of the rail, that works just great. But it's really hard to get that zip tie to be like super snug all the way around the rail because you've got this square or rectangular shaped rail and you really have to tighten it on. So you've got more kind of wiggle room for that cable to move up and down. What this allows you to do is get a super tight tie right around the cables, and it keeps it right in line in position on the side of the rail. So again, it's kind of familiar. You're using zip ties. It's a kind of a typical sort of installation, but with the added benefits that it stays right in place and it's a little bit more secure. Um, okay, like I say, this one's pretty kind of quick and simple. I'll pause. I don't know if there's any questions in there, Stanko, you want to hit on.
It was just a comment from Joseph. Unfortunately, he bought a couple of the spacer tools, and one of them broke on his first job. Uh, Thank you for the feedback. Maybe we can connect offline and talk about, how exactly it broke. Did it get dropped or whatever? Because you're right, it's 3D printed material. If you drop it off a roof onto a sidewalk, it's probably going to break. But we'd like to hear more about the context around that, how that happened.
Okay. Well, I'll use that. Maybe not the smoothest segue, but that does bring us to our next tool is the spacer tool. So here you can see bright yellow spacer tool. This is designed for setting that gap in between your PV modules. It's just a really simple tool. There's no rocket science here. It's just meant to make the install a little bit simpler, a little bit easier, and make your arrays line up kind of perfect and square. So this is what it looks like. So this is a 3D printed part, as Stanko mentioned. There's a couple of reasons why we did that. One, it keeps it kind of simple and easy to produce. Secondly, it allows us to kind of make changes in future. We may tweak this based on user feedback, that kind of thing. So we could rapidly deploy these and get lots of them out. But as you can see, it's kind of a cross-shaped design. So it's got kind of, the two webs on it that are going to sit in between the modules. So what that's going to do is it's going to set that gap in between your modules and specifically the row spacing or kind of the vertical between rows. And I'll explain exactly what I mean by that. But really the goal here of this tool is again, it's just to make it super easy to lay out your modules and make them super clean and aligned. It reduces sawtoothing and alignment inconsistencies. So sawtoothing, if you know what I mean, is when that first module say is just a little bit crooked, maybe it's not aligned with the edge of your roof, and then to kind of maintain that straight row, you end up with them all just a little bit staggered or sawtoothed, and it doesn't look good. It means you're going back and adjusting and doing this kind of stuff. So it's the goal of this tool is to try and kind of help prevent those pain points and just make it a little bit easier to align your arrays. It's bright fast track yellow. If you're anything like me, you're going to set this down in the silliest places and you're not going to be able to find it. So hopefully being yellow is going to help with that. If nothing else, it looks cool. Um, Again, really the goal is to speed up installation and improve your workflow. A few of the specs here. So it works with any of our fast track clamps. So it doesn't matter if you're using T-bolt clamp, click lock clamp, or our hidden end clamps. This is going to work just fine. It also works with any modulable frame, so it really has no bearing. If you're different frame thicknesses or different sizes of modules, that's not going to impact the usage of the tool. You will notice there's a hole in the top of the handle. It doesn't come with a string, but if you choose to, you can install a pull string through that. I might recommend that. We found it really great in the testing. As you use these and you're kind of reaching over to remove it, being able to pull that from a string might just make your life a little bit easier. So that's what that's there for. So a little bit more on how it works. So it's got kind of a web design. You see that web on the top. So it's designed to sit on top of the PV module. So it's not going to fall through. You don't need to hold it into place. Even on a sloped roof, it's going to kind of stay hooked over top of the corner of the module. It's best used two at a time. So we recommend using two tools. So as you can see in the image on the right here, that module in the middle, we've got two spacer tools. So what that means is as you go to install the row above, it can just kind of slide down and it'll rest right against those flanges on the spacer tool, and it'll set your row gapping perfectly at a 1/2 inch. One kind of important caveat here that's maybe not clear off the get-go is really the goal is for aligning your rows and keeping things square. Your vertical gaps, or kind of where your module clamps are going to be situated, those are not necessarily going to be set by the spacer tool. They're going to be set by the module clamps. And that's intentional because our clamps actually have varying thicknesses. Our T-bolt clamp is a little over half an inch wide, and our click lock clamp is a little wider at like 0.6 or 7 inch wide. So as you install your clamps, that's actually what's going to set your spacing in between modules horizontally. Once you've got those on, you put the spacer tool in, and your next module can just drop down, and it'll set that row space. Since you're going to be installing the module clamps anyways, they're always kind of going to dictate that space. But like I say, regardless of which clamp you're using, the spacer tool is half an inch gap, so it's going to fit in between either way, and it's going to allow you to set those gaps and make it look uniform and consistent. I guess maybe to comment. So we did do a decent amount of testing. It's not the world's most robust tool, maybe, but it is. We did do some drop testing and some functional testing. So it is designed to be fairly rugged and stand up on the site. But that said, be careful. It's not really meant to be dropped, or especially if it lands on a hard surface or that kind of thing. So we'll kind of continue to monitor if there are any issues with quality of construction. But from what we've seen in our testing, they're fairly robust. It does have kind of a hook design with the handle that was intentional, so you can kind of hook it into your tool belt or your pocket, or wherever you want to put it. Keep it close by so it makes your installs easy. So with that, I'll pause again for a minute. Anything else in the Q&A there, Sanko?
No, just a couple of questions which have answered in the Q&A, so we're good to proceed.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so moving ahead, this one to me is the most exciting of the bunch. So this is our Fast Track Edge trim. So this is our latest Critter Guard, Rodent Guard solution. So there's really two key components that I want to introduce with this. The first, and this is really where the magic happens, in my opinion, is the Fast Track Edge clamp. So this is a brand new clamp. It's designed to attach the trim to the edges of your module. So the way this works, it's really a pretty simple clamp mechanism, but you can see there's kind of two pieces to it. They're going to slide together and they're going to clamp right around the module frame. This is an aluminum clamp. It's black anodized, so it's going to look really nice. It's going to hide in behind the trim. It's super solid and robust. It's not going to unclip. It's not going to break. It's solid aluminum piece. And what's really important here is it's got a universal fit for flanged and non-flanged modules. And I've got a couple slides where I'll kind of get into that in a little more detail. But it's a faster install than traditional J-hook systems. You can clip these on. It's just a little bit easier, a little friendlier. You don't need to snip them off or any of that. They're certainly more secure than a J-hook system. The hardware on it, it's all stainless steel. We use a nice square Robertson bit, same as you're going to use for the Fast Track Talon. As Canadians, we love to use our Robertson bits, so we kept it that way on purpose. And then lastly, maybe one of the key points of this clamp is it's reusable for design maintenance and servicing. So you can take it on, take it off, remove it, unlike a J-hook where generally if you're going to take it off, it's got to be disposed and replaced. You can take this off, you can adjust it, so that makes it really easy. And then moving on to the Fast Track Edge trim. So these come in a nice 4-foot section. So this is kind of our aesthetic trim or premium trim. So it's going to look a little bit nicer than your typical Critter Guard mesh. It's going to be super nice and straight, really clean looking, and super easy to handle. So they're going to come in a box. We have 25 of them in a box. So it's really easy to use compared to like the big heavy roll of mesh that gets kind of unwieldy and it's heavy and you got to straighten it out and all this kind of stuff. These are just like nice 4-foot chunks. They're super lightweight. They're easy to align and they clamp right on. So this is going to give you a really premium finish look for your solder arrays. In addition to that, generally faster installation than traditional rolls. There's a couple reasons why that I'll get into. As far as materials, this is an aluminum piece. So it's all aluminum, black coated, so it's going to look really nice. It blends in with the black frame of your modules. And it's designed for year-round use, of course. It's robust, snow, rain, whatever you got going on. Paired with the clamp, it's very secure, so you don't have to worry about it, pulling off the roof as snow slides off the array, that kind of thing. It's going to be very secure. And last but not least, totally removable and reusable for future use. So you need to go in, you need to replace a module or get to a microinverter or whatever you happen to be doing. Super easy. Unbolt a couple of pieces of the trim, go in there, do your maintenance, and then pop it right back on. You don't need to buy new parts. You don't need to peel anything off or break any clamps or whatnot. You just unbolt it and bolt it back on. So as far as installation, so I got a couple slides here about the clamp itself. So it was really important when we designed this that it was universal for flanged and non-flanged module frames. And what I mean by that is the bolting flange on the bottom of the module. So as many of you probably have experienced, most of the new modules out these days, the short side of the module frame typically doesn't have that bolting flange underneath. And that's caused all kinds of problems for critter guard. Traditionally, we use a J-hook. If you don't have that flange, as you can kind of see on the non-flanged image there, there's nowhere to hook that J-hook. So you're kind of in a situation where there's not a lot of good solutions. You can't use a J-hook. We did introduce a critter guard clip, a year or two ago as an option for this. But in any case, this clamp, it's going to work regardless of the style of the module frame. You can see it's kind of got a hooked design. So if you do have the flange, it's going to hook right around. If you don't, no problem. And then the end result, as you see at the bottom, it's actually clamping against the vertical wall of the module frame. So that flange has really got no bearing on how this attaches. It's going to clamp on no matter what. Again, with the universal theme, module thickness is going to have no impact on this either. It can be a 30 mil, 40 mil, 50 mil, you name it. It's going to clamp onto the module just fine. You'll also notice there's a small spring on the inside of this. So this is actually a key piece of the way that it functions. So what that spring does is it holds the two pieces apart. So it just makes it easy to use. So you don't have kind of a flopsy clamp. It's going to kind of stay rigid in the open position. And that allows you to easily hook it onto the module. And then as you tighten it, everything compresses and it secures in place. Once you've got your clamps secured to the module, the next step is moving to the trim. It's super simple. So step one, align. So you've got your clamp in place. I know it's kind of small there, but you're going to notice that on the clamp, there is a small screw. It's pre-installed. It's going to be there when you install it. And you're going to position the trim over top of that screw. So that screw is going to come through and it can go through any of the perforations on the trim. So that's what's really great about this. There's tons of locations where you can mount. So it makes it really easy, adjustable. There's no dedicated holes. You got a lot of freedom when you come to installing the clamps. There is some minimum spacing that we recommend. So I'll show you how that works. But again, it's very, very easy to align. To secure it in place, it comes with slotted washers. So these are going to come separately in a little bag on the side. So you just slide that over top of this screw. So again, you don't need to remove that screw. It's already going to be installed on the clamp. You just slide the slotted washer over the front of the trim and tighten that screw, and now you're locked in place. And then repeat. So as you go to do the next piece, the trim is designed to overlap end to end. So you're going to share the last clamp so as you can kind of see here, this is the end of trim number 1 and the start of trim number 2, and they're going to share the same clamp. And there's a couple of reasons why we do this. One, it's less pieces, of course. You're using one clamp where otherwise you'd have two. It's also a little bit more secure. It keeps that, you don't end up with a gap. It keeps them overlapped and tight. Again, the goal of this is to keep, critters, birds, rodents out from under your array. So keeping that gap closed is going to help with that. Design flexibility. So the trim height is optimized for Fast Track Ultra. So this is really one of the key points, and I think one of the best things about it is it can be installed, generally speaking, without any cutting or bending on most installations. So the height of that trim is designed to fit So if you're using our Fast Track Ultra system with our L foot, and whether you're using the Fast Track Talon or so even some other solutions like an RT Mini is going to work, it's going to fit perfectly between the roof and the height of the module without trimming or bending. So that saves you a ton of time. Typically, when it comes to using mesh, you're gonna have to go through, you're gonna have to fold it almost all the time and or trim it off, that kind of thing. So that just adds a ton of time to your install. There's not a lot of good tools or ways to do it. So this is again super easy. It just takes a lot of the pain out of the installation of critter guard systems. Another key point is designed to conform to the shape of the roof. So as we all know, believe it or not, roofs are typically not flat. They're going to be up and down, and some are going to be better than others, but there are going to be some kind of undulations in the roof. Um, it's very hard to see in this image, but in the top left, there is actually a subtle tilt to that piece of trim. So what that shows is as you install the trim, it can kind of angle up and down a little bit as needed. Um, it always has to remain below the top of the module frame, as you see on the right. But it can be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, as long as it stays within the module frame. And that allows you some flexibility just to keep it tight against the roof surface and again, minimize any trimming or bending that may be needed. Key point on the height, as you can see in the top right image there, do always keep it below the top of the roof surface or module surface. Uh, Key reason here is for snow, really. Could be shading too, but the main reason is snow. You don't want that thing hanging above. As snow avalanches off in the winter, it's going to catch on there. It's going to pull on it. So it's not designed for that, and it's just not good practice. So make sure that the top edge is always below the top of the module frame. And then as far as clamping zones, so the minimum spacing for the clamps when paired with the trim is every 24 inches. It's a fairly robust piece, so we can push fairly large spans like that. If you want to use more, you certainly can. There's no limit to if you want to go tighter. But at a minimum, we recommend 3 clamps per piece of trim. So you can see these zones. This is going to be shown in our installation manual as well. But you want one on either end. Those are going to get shared with the adjacent piece, and then one in the middle. And you've got some space. There's a bit of range. We've got these nice perforations, so there is a lot of flexibility here. But you do want to have 3 per piece of trim at a minimum to keep it tight. Height adjustment. So, and if necessary, I would say so. There are going to be situations where you may need to do, bending or trimming or that kind of thing. As I said, we've kind of optimized this so that most of the time you're not going to have to do that, and that's a huge win. But occasionally you might have a situation where you do, and in that case, we tried to make it super easy for that too. So there's a couple of options to make this happen. So you're going to notice on the trim, the bottom 2 rows of perforations are kind of a narrower line. That's intentional. So there's 2 options that I would recommend. Number one is bending. So if you want to bend this over, it's super easy. Because you've got that line of perforations, you can bend those over in the distance between them is about 0.3 inches. So you got a little bit of range. So if you want to reduce the height a little bit, you could fold over at the bottom line. If you want to take a little more off, bend over on the top line. And this is an aluminum piece. It's fairly soft and malleable, so you can literally go down and bend this with your fingers if you want. What I would recommend is, take it to a straight edge, like a edge of a PV module, or if you've got a board or something like that, and you can literally just go and fold this over. So again, no special tools required, super easy. You get a nice straight bend every time because the perforations are there to guide that fold. So again, it makes that height adjustment super easy compared to other solutions on the market. And then the second option, of course, is you can always trim. If you want to trim, again, it makes trimming easy because you've got this kind of guide to use. You just trim it right along that perforation. The snipping is really easy because it's aluminum and you're kind of cutting along that line anyways. So it makes that really easy if you prefer. One thing I do want to point out, as far as the height adjustment, so we've kind of optimized the height of this trim so that whether you're at the bottom or the top range of our L foot, as you can see in the bottom left image here, the trim is designed to fit. So if you've got all the way down or all the way up, trim is gonna fit without any bending or trimming in most cases. But that said, the best practice is to install it at kind of a midpoint. So what we've shown here and what I kind of recommend, so on the side of our rail and on the side of our L foot, there's the little teeth down the side, corrugations, if you will, and they're designed to bite together and they kind of lock the rail and the L foot together when you bolt it. Um, Everybody's got a preference on how they do it. I know some who prefer to start all the way up, some who prefer all the way down. That's totally up to you, and you're welcome to do however you want. Um, but if you want the kind of the widest range, the best for this system is actually somewhere in the middle. And what I recommend is aligning kind of the top of the L foot with the top teeth on the rail. And what that actually does is it puts it at a bit of a midpoint. So you've got some range up, you've got some range down. And if you have your outer row of L feet at this height, you have a very high likelihood that you're not going to have to do any trimming or modification of the trim. When it comes to bending, again, bending's super easy. The aluminum is really easy to fold. The perforations, because they're in kind of a vertical horizontal grid, it makes it really easy to make square bends. So you can bend this, you can bend it wherever you want, depending on what you do. So generally speaking, like the way I would approach it is that I'd probably start at a corner of an array, bend a nice piece, kind of like you see on the screen. And then you can kind of just continue your array. But of course, depending on how your array is laid out, where your corners land, you might not always, you don't have to bend it right in the middle. You can bend it anywhere along the length that you see fit. But the bending is easy. One thing to note is it's best if you bend along like anywhere on the mesh. So you're going to notice there's kind of those solid black like stiffener ribs within the trim. Um, it's much harder to bend it at that location, and we don't recommend it. It's actually best if you bend it along the perforated section of the trim. Again, it's going to bend super easily. I recommend putting it around something, again, like a straight edge of some kind. If you want to do it around the module frame or a piece of wood or something like that, just to get a nice clean bend. But super easy to do. You can just do it with your hands. And for corner sections, the same rule applies as far as clamping zones. You want to have a clamp at either end of the trim, and then you want one somewhere in that mid zone. Generally recommended to keep it on the long side, depending on your bend. But as long as you're within that kind of mid zone of the trim, you're going to be good to go. And then trim modification. So again, this is going to come up all the time and depends how you want to do it. If you've got rails that are kind of sticking out from the end of the array, it's super easy. You can just notch this out. So just a pair of metal snips is all you need. So you can just notch out, as the image here, notch out around the rail. If you want to do a hole and kind of pop it through, that's totally fine. Whatever kind of works out cleanest for you. But again, super easy to trim. It's kind of that soft aluminum. Uh, One thing I would give a plug for the hidden end clamp at this point. So our hidden end clamp, it's really cool because it hides underneath the module frame and it allows you to trim your rails flush with the end of the module. So that's a big win for installing CritterGuard because you don't have the rails sticking out, so you're not going to run into this issue. So two things about it. One, it's easier for installing CritterGuard, and two, your final product is just going to look so much better. When you put this on, you're not going to have to do this notch. You're going to get this nice clean trim all the way around. It's going to look awesome. But that said, if you're using standard clamps, no problem. We do sell an end cap too. I think that was our accessory project from last year. So that's a good option if you want to make it look slick, but you still want to use traditional end clamps. But you do want to keep a tight fit around the rail. So again, we want to keep the rodents out. We don't want to have large gaps. So try and do a fairly tight cut when you're doing that. Okay, so that kind of concludes my fast track edge trim, but there's a few more benefits of the clamp that pertain to our existing CritterGuard lineup. So we call it the edge fence. So we've kind of rebranded this a little bit, but really what this is our traditional roll of CritterGuard mesh. So the new edge clamp, it's gonna work perfectly with the existing mesh as well. So as we introduce this new fast track edge trim, We're not going to discontinue the mesh. We're still going to carry that. So if you prefer that product, you are more than welcome to use it. We'll have it available. I think we have a 6-inch and an 8-inch height available for it. But the key addition here is you can now pair it with the edge clamp. And that's got a couple of big advantages. Again, as we talked about with those module flanges, J-hooks are a problem. So we introduced our edge clip. So you can see in the top right, our plastic edge clip. It's designed for those non-flanged module frames. So it just snaps on into place. It's super easy. That said, it's not as robust. It's just a plastic clip. It's a little lighter duty, right? If you're in a really heavy snow region, like I live here in Barrie, Ontario, we got a lot of snow this winter. So I get it. You're gonna have snow flying off of that array in the middle of the winter. The clip might not be your best solution, and that's a location where I would totally install the edge clamp. Again, it's aluminum, it clamps into place, it's much more secure. So for high snow load locations, it's a much better option. And then if you want, you can mix and match. So you can use, you could use J hooks around one side, and you can use edge clamps around the short side. Depending on your module, you could use all J hooks. You could use J hooks and clips. So mix and match as you see fit, or use edge clamps for the whole thing. Totally up to you. Let's see. So when you go to our website, we've got some good tools, and this is going to kind of tie into, mixing and matching and picking the right clamps and clips for your system. So fastrack.ca, this is where we keep all the good stuff. So if you go in here, you're going to see number one, our accessories is right on the landing page because we're all very excited for the launch of these new products. But most of the good stuff is under this resources tab. So in the top right of the website, you're going to see a button that says resources. When you click on that, it gives you a couple of options. The first one is downloads. So everything fast track, so more than just accessories, but our Ultra, our ground mounts, you name it, everything is in here. Our team's done a great job on keeping this up to date, and it's got additional information too, like technical info, certification docs, all that kind of stuff. So I totally recommend going here if you ever want the current or latest versions of install manuals, spec sheets, all of that. It's always going to be on here. So if you click on that downloads button, it's going to lead you to the downloads page, and you're going to see the different systems. But as it pertains to accessories, we've got a whole section for it. And you're going to see we've got an Edge data sheet, installation manuals, spacer tool data sheet, cable clip data sheet. So you can go in there, click on what you want, you can take a look, and it's got all that good stuff. We've also made some additions to our Fast Track Builder. So this is our online tool for configuring your system. So again, if you go to that resources button on the website, you can check out the Ultra Builder. And really what we've added here is some selection options for test protection. We've got it labeled under here. So you can click this on. So here we've got it toggled to edge trim and clamps. So that means you're going to configure this system with our new edge trim and the clamps. But if you want to use the Critter Guard instead, just click on Critter Guard. It's going to change the image, so you'll see exactly what you've selected and how it works. And it's going to give you the options, like I said, with if you want to pair it with J hooks, or clips, or the clamps, you name it. You can kind of go through and configure it as you like. And then, of course, all the other stuff, like you select your clamps and rails and lay out your system and get a full bill of materials at the end. Okay, so that kind of brings me to the end of this. But maybe what I'll do is I'll pause, and I'm happy to go back and kind of explore any questions that we may have.
No questions in the Q&A right now. Thanks for going through that, Connor. Maybe we're on the builder, maybe worth mentioning that there's an option there for the cable clips as well at the bottom there. And they come in bags of 100. So if you want to order them, they will be purchasable in a bag of a 100. And perhaps similar on the trim, those will be packaged in flat boxes of 25 units, which is roughly 100 feet, which is roughly what a roll of mesh comes in at. We do have a question from Nathan Archibald that asks, when can I buy these products?
Well, you can buy them from Charge Solar. So everything Fast Track, it's sold through Charge Solar. So go to Charge, talk to your account manager. They'll hook you up. You can check the website, of course, Charge Solar website, and go through there as well. But yeah, everything Fast Track's on there. So go to the Fast Track site if you like. But yeah, talk to your Charge rep, and that's where you're gonna get the goods.
So, and in terms of inventory, the module spacer tools are available now. The remainder of the items, like the edge clamps and edge trim and the cable clips, are landing at our Calgary facility this week, and they will be distributed to other locations from there within the next week or so. So, you can go ahead and inquire with your account manager right away if you are interested in these.
Awesome. Well, I'll give it a couple more minutes for anybody else to put in their last minute questions. But Connor, thank you for an awesome presentation. And Stanko, thank you for answering the questions in the background. Also, thank you to everyone who joined this call. This webinar recording will be added to our YouTube channel and shared with all of you by the end of day today. And we still don't have any questions. Any last minute questions? We'll give it another 30 seconds. Oh, somebody says, thank you and looks great. Thanks, Vincent.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent. Then yeah, please reach out around the print files and we can discuss.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, I guess we'll end it there. Thanks again, Connor and Stanko.
Great.
Have
Thank
a
you,
Thanks,
great
everybody.
everybody.
rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody,
Bye.
for joining us.